Okay, hope 7.1 and 7.2 have gone all right for you. We're going to skip 7.3 and 7.4. We're going to go right to section 7.5 here, and it's classifying lines and angles. So what you'll see quite common in mathematics and in geometry actually is you'll see two lines, and these two lines typically sometimes they'll be parallel, sometimes they will not. So in this example my lines are not parallel. So I have line 1 here and line P2 here. And then this is line that splits them is called a transversal. And that's what transversal is a straight line that intersects two other straight lines. And that creates what we call a transversal. And so when we have this, we create 8 angles, basically. We have angles 1, 2, 3, and 4 here, and then we have angles 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so when this happens, we get, like I say, those 8 angles. But those 8 angles, there's all different types of relationships with them. One of those relationships are what we call adjacent supplementary angles. And so when they're adjacent, that means they're side by side. And supplementary angles mean that they equal 180 degrees. So what we want to do is name those 8 pairs that are adjacent supplementary angles. So again, that means they're side by side, but they equal 180 degrees. So some of those pairs would be angle 1 and angle 2, and then angle 2 and angle 4, and angle 4, and angle 3, and angle 3, and angle 1. And then the next section below that's in green, it's the same thing, angle 5, and angle 6, angle 6, and angle 8, angle 8, and angle 7, and then finally angle 7 and angle 5. And those are your 8 different pairs of adjacent supplementary angles. So they're side by side, and you can see that they're going to equal 180 degrees. So if I take angle 7 here and I add that to whatever angle 5 is, they're going to equal 180 degrees always. Okay, and this diagram here, it also gives us a little some different other things. It gives us what are called corresponding angles. So other pairs of angles that can be described when you've got two lines that are divided by a transversal, okay, just like what we have here. One example is corresponding angles. So that is when two angles are formed by two lines and a transversal and located on the same side as the transversal. So if we look at our diagram up above, angles 1 and angles 5 would be classified as corresponding angles because they are on the same side of the transversal. They're both to the left of the transversal, and they are both above their corresponding lines. So another example would be angle 2 and angle 6. They're both on the right side of the transversal and yet still above on top of their lines. Okay, so that's what corresponding angles are. That diagram above, they don't really work too well. That's what they are, the corresponding angles, but if my lines are parallel, which we'll get into a little bit later, I can use that information to figure out what different angles are. Opposite angles are probably the easier of these three different examples here. They are non-adjacent angles that are formed by two intersecting lines. So basically right here I have two lines that are intersecting. So angles 1 and angles 4 are opposite angles, as are angles 2 and 3. As are 5 and 8, and 7 and 6. You can see how they're opposite. Okay. The third one is alternate angles. And alternate angles are two angles formed by two lines and a transversal and located on opposite sides. Now with alternate angles, there are basically two types. There are your alternate interior angles. Okay, so in this case, that would be like 1 and 6 would be, 3 and 6 would be alternate interior angles. And I call it like the Z rule. So if I like make a Z, like here, this and this are inside. And so therefore those are alternate interior angles. They're on opposite sides of the transversal, and yet they are interior or inside my actual Z. Okay, so 3 and 6 are what we call alternate interior angles. The Z rule. The other one is alternate exterior angles. And that would be like angles 1 and 8. So if I was to draw my Z again, that's on the outside and that's on the outside. So those are opposite. Those are alternate exterior angles. Okay? So that is angles 1 and angles 8. So that's outside of the Z. So try these out. Okay? So go to page 198, 199 in your work text. Do numbers 1 to 3 and 6 to 8. And try these out. And then we're going to take a look next at dealing with parallel lines. And that's when you can really start to use the opposite angles, alternate angles, to really figure out what some of these angles are going to be. And you'll need to know that for your Term 2 project. Okay? See you in class.